Hello and welcome back to The Other Side, hosted by me, A Sauce. You are tuned in to the other side of the Bayou. It is spooky season, and you know it's so unfortunate about spooky season. There is something going on in Houston, Texas. I'm from Texas, and this is the second city here in Texas that has something going on that the police are not labeling as a serial killer, but it's very uneasy for the public. It's very concerning and it's very alarming with the amount of deaths that are happening in an isolated area in these two different locations. So we're going to be talking about Houston. I feel like everybody's been talking about Austin and the Lady Bird Lake deaths, but we definitely need to just go to Houston and talk about this because this is a developing story. I do want to preface this before I start. I don't have all the facts. I tried to research. I went through so many articles. I will be posting every single article that I used as a source in the description so that way you guys can understand where I'm getting this information from, what news sources are saying, so that you guys can read those articles yourself, because I did kind of pull from every single direction that I could. Again, this is developing every single day. Either there's a new body being found, the coroner's able to identify a body, give us a reason for a death. So I might even be doing a part two on what's going on in Houston, Texas, because again, this is just developing. I might wait a little bit so that way I can try to see if there's like any more news going on with this situation. If you guys know what's going on in Houston, and maybe I'm missing something, always let me know in the comments below. Like, this is not a space to be hateful towards anybody, to be rude towards anybody. I, like you, am a human. I make mistakes. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I left some information out because I did not know about it. I skipped over it. I tried to do my due diligence. But of course, again, I'm a human. I make errors. So please be kind in the comments. Let me know what you know, and we can debrief together. But there's no hate ever. There's just always a safe space, always respect for everybody. And then also do know that before we dive in, a quick trigger warning. We are going to be discussing topics that some viewers may find disturbing. So please listen with caution. Please always watch these videos whenever we talk about true crime. I'm not actually going to be going into certain deaths because we don't have any, but if it still bothers you because there might be other topics of conversation coming up about these deaths, please do be warned. It's going to be a trigger warning for some people. So now today, heading down to Houston, Texas, as I said, as where the buzz is unsettling. There's huge whispers of a serial killer haunting the bayous. Now, again, this is a developing story. There are not a lot of solid facts. There's plenty of theories, though, swirling around on TikTok, on YouTube, everywhere, even in Houston, Texas alone. So the story caught my attention immediately because of what's going on in Austin with all the bodies turning up in Lady Bird Lake. And now here in October 2025, we have 6 more bodies that have surfaced in the Houston bayous. It's very, very concerning because we don't know what's lurking. We don't know if these deaths are connected. We do not know anything. And I think that that's why the public is so uneased about this, because they are looking at Austin and they are comparing it to what's going on in Houston, and they are like, well, there's no facts. There's nothing that makes me feel like I am safe and I am secure, because there's not any like 100% like, you know what, yeah, the deaths aren't connected. This person died because of XYZ reason. So you have to understand why people are upset the way that they are. Okay, so I had to re-record this because I felt like I was not making any sense when I originally recorded this, and I am wearing my Houston Texans sweater. I am a huge Houston Texans fan. So let's talk about what's going on in Houston. So what is going on in Houston is basically that last year there was 26 bodies that were found. The reason why everybody is so concerned this time around is because it's just been way too much. So in September alone, they found about 15 bodies. I unfortunately was not able to find every single body that they found, but it was basically week after week in September, even leading up to last week in October. They were still finding bodies. They were finding 3 bodies at a time, or they would find a body, then they would find another body the next day. And the last time that they found a body in September was the 25th of September. And that's why people are like concerned right now, because last year it was just kind of like that was periodically throughout the year. This time around, it's just been way too much for a small short period of time. But it is very much like everybody should know that this does happen. And that is one of the arguments that the police and the mayor have been making, is that, this is not something that's not common. The bayous do end up producing a lot of bodies for multiple different reasons, such as, there is a homeless population there. It is a waterway. So unfortunately, things happen, accidents happen. But I do also want to side with, there was a NYPD police officer who actually gave a like speech, not a speech, he spoke on it, sorry. So this was NYPD Sergeant Joseph. I don't know how to say his last name, but I'll put his last name here for y'all so that way you can see what it is. But he said that something's afoot. It's not a coincidence. It's very unlikely. Each case needs a deeper look, especially within the 24 hours of the disappearance. And the reason why he's saying that is because like this is a timeline. Again, this is not every single body that has been found. This has been what they've been able to release. The reason why they are not listing out every single body is because they do not know who the people are. They're still working to identify bodies, and they're still working to get a coroner's report for every single body. So there is not a lot that they can release out to the public. And another issue why I think that the public is so suspicious, not just because of how many it has been through a consistent month, but they're also concerned because the problem is that this is a large area, and it does go into 2 different jurisdictions. So Houston is saying that they have found this amount, and then the other county line, which I wasn't able to decipher which one it was, but it's another county within Houston, because Houston is a large area and they have different sub areas. So it's kind of like El Paso. So El Paso is one huge county, but it has different cities and different police jurisdictions within an entire county. So I understand that. I don't know if other people understand that, but so in the bayou, they're finding bodies on one side of a jurisdiction, and they're finding bodies on another jurisdiction. And the problem is that, one side is reporting a certain amount of numbers and a certain amount of bodies. The other side is reporting their own set of numbers and stats. And so that is where also the public's like, well, are you guys working together? Are you guys not working together? Is there communication going on? Is there not communication going on? So as of right now, this is what I found through the articles that I found. Again, if you know of anything, please put it down in the comments. Please help the public be aware of what is going on, so maybe we can help out in any kind of way, because I always do believe that the more you speak of something, the more that you're able to get the awareness out, the more that you're able to help other people by using your voice. Your voice is a powerful tool. So this is the timeline. September 15th, a university student was found. 5 days later, on September 19th, another student, Jaden McKissick, was recovered alongside 4 more bodies from the Green, White Oak, and Buffalo bayous. McKissick's autopsy did come out with no signs of trauma. She was last seen heading to the trail along the Brazen Bayou. Now, next, in September 25th, there was another body found late at night. On October 8th, yet another body discovered on 100 Marie Street, close to I-45 in Hoggs Park. No ID, no cause of death, no obvious signs of foul play. Foul play. I need to slow down. Now, among the victims, these are other bodies that were found. 34-year-old Seth Hans was found on September 16th in White Oaks Bayou. 63-year-old Alfonso Alvarez was found 2 days later in Buffalo Bayou after witnesses saw a man enter the water and never come up. And Michael Miller the final Bayou death reported in September. The victims' age ranges are from 20 years old to 60 years old. Now, there is one confirmed so far. There is a 33-year-old Anthony Owas. He did drown. That is the only one where they are reporting the cause of death um, thus far. Everybody else, they're saying that there's just no foul play, but they're not saying whether, it's a murder, a suicide, whatever. Anthony Uza is the only one that they said that he died because of drowning. And they did report that he was found in September, but he died back in March. So they do need to, though, figure out still, like, I think they cannot just sit there and, like, with Uza say, you know what, he drowned, that's it. I think that they need to sit there and say, okay, yes, he drowned, but he drowned back in March. Why did it take us so long to find his body? Why is it that he drowned? Who was he? Was anybody looking for this 33-year-old man? Was he a homeless person? I think that there is still a lot of questions that the police need to answer. And you know what? When I was reading the articles and I was reading a lot of the reports, I think that that's also another issue. And I'm just going to keep bringing up issues that I think need to be answered and solved. Another issue that I've been seeing is that, like, you hear a lot about the police just trying to say, there's no evidence of the serial killer, people drown in the bayou. It's not nothing new. But I'm like, but are you guys actually investigating? Are you guys actually sitting there and saying, this is suspicious? Because it is. I understand that the age range is like crazy. You know what I mean? It's the youngest is 20 years old, the oldest is in their 60s. I get that. But are you guys, and then they're also being like, well, because like it's males and females, so like there's also not a pattern there. But I'm like, there still needs to be question, like, why did Uza drown back in March? Why are we barely finding his body? I feel like that is what the public is questioning, but it feels, and again, I'm not accusing, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying based on what I've seen, it feels like the police are not asking the same questions that the public is asking. Maybe the news reports are not actually saying the whole story of, maybe they are questioning it, and it's just not being reported. We don't know. It's such a crazy thing, because this is just such a developing thing. But Mayor Whitmer, he's been doubling down, man. He's been saying that, Houston has a large homeless population. He's saying that the deaths may be unreported or misunderstood. And, he's been very much doubling down on the fact that there's no sign that there's a serial killer. Even Houston Police Chief No Diaz, and the medical examiner say that they're still trying to determine the cause of death. They're working to identify all the bodies. And together with Mayor Whitmer, they're saying to stop spreading misinformation, not to say that there's a serial killer, that there is no evidence to back it up. And additionally, there was a councilwoman, Carolyn Evans, who had said that, she's always open to solutions, but I don't know how we stop bodies from ending up in the bayou other than changing behaviors. So basically, from the mayor's office to the sheriff's office to council members in Houston, they are all saying that it's the homeless population. And I think that that's kind of disrespectful to McKissick's family and the other Houston University student that went missing and ended up in the bayous. I think that labeling them into the homeless population situation is very discrediting to the family. I didn't find anything on what the McKissick family is saying. Maybe you guys found something. You can let me know in the comments. But I think that that's very disrespectful. I really wish that in the articles that I was reading, the news reports that I was reading, everything that I was reading on this, I wish that there was more people talking about these university students who went missing, and, what are the police and the mayor are going to do to ensure that university students are safe, because they are not homeless. They are not part of a homeless crisis. There's no reason to accuse them of being part of a drug and mental health problem. Those two people, their deaths should be marked as suspicious, because why would university students who probably went down to that trail to walk, to go run, why did those two end up dead? I can understand maybe the older people who maybe were homeless, unfortunately, and I do feel for homeless people. Honestly, that is like the scariest thing in my life. If anybody was to ever ask me what my fear is being homeless. Like, I I'm very grateful for the roof over my head. I'm very grateful for the food that I'm able to buy every single day. Whenever I see a homeless person, I want to give them water. I want to be sympathetic towards them, because again, they are going through something, but I just don't want the whole Houston death situation to be labeled as a homeless issue, or that it's homeless people that are ending up in that bayou. Because again, the reports is that it is university students, it's young people who do not need to be labeled in a negative light. And I think that that's my big issue with this, besides like the dismissal of the entire thing. And I can understand why the public is upset, because why are we just labeling the Houston bayou deaths and missing people and disappearance and bodies turning up as homeless people? That's what that's what they're saying. That's what the articles are reporting. That is the quotes that they're getting. It's a homeless population issue. And that, they were saying, also that they wanted to put, fences and barriers, and that they need to, talk about the alcohol use and the mental health struggles. And it's like, what about the other people? Why are we just labeling it that way, man? Like, I'm so flabbergasted over the fact that every single person of, status that is working on this case is labeling it as these are homeless people and it's a homeless population crisis. And there's no serial killer, because, it happens. It's very disheartening. And I really want to stand up for McKissick's family, and I really hope that they get more answers than just there was no foul play on her body. Why did she end up in the bayou? Why? What happened to her specifically, and that other university student? Are university students safe to go to the bayou? Because they say there's a trail there and everything. So I do want to know more about that. There was also a criminologist, Kristen Grin, that made also some comments, giving another angle, saying that environmental change could explain the rise of bodies from the low water levels, the heat, the debris shifts. They can have bodies resurface after a long death. She's saying that global warming, drought, decomposition can all be factors on why we're seeing it. She said sometimes bodies sink and they only reappear when the decomposition makes them rise. And again, I feel like everybody is just finding any other reason to the deaths than why are the most recent ones that like clearly like they disappeared on this date and now they're resurfacing. You can't just chalk everything up as one problem, and that's what's happening here. Everything is being chalked up as one solid problem, and that is not the root of the problem. um and I have so much questions, and I hate to end it on questions. I hate to end it. Um, but there's just not a lot going on right now other than this is what we found and this is what we're chalking it up as, and this is the public's, you know, opinion on the situation. And I really do wish the mayor and the sheriff and the council people stop saying it's not a problem, because it is. It is a problem in Houston. There needs to be not just chalking it up as a homeless population crisis, not chalking it up as global warming. I think that they really need to sit there and evaluate every single case, and every single case needs to have its own individual justice. Again, I'm going to do part two because there is a lot developing with this. Maybe, hopefully, in 6 months, we'll hear more. Maybe in a month, we'll hear more. Maybe we'll finally get the answers that we're all wondering. I do understand why people in Houston are concerned. I live in Texas. I feel for people who live in Texas. I feel bad for people everywhere, that are dealing with stuff like this. But, this is my home. I love Texas. And if you guys have anything, let me know in the comments. If you guys know of anything, if you guys want to have a discussion on it, always in the comments. Like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are willing to have that open conversation about what's going on. And my heart goes out to all the families that have had their loved ones found deceased in the bayous. And I really do hope that you guys get the answer and the justice that you deserve. Thank you for watching. This was The Other Side of the Bayous, hosted by me, your host, ASOS. As always, it's spooky season. Stay spooky, stay safe, always watch out for other people, and always spread kindness. Bye.